let's start. So some of you might have been on the previous iteration of this talk, basically, or the first talk we did on the Fedora release party about the Anaconda Web UI. So since then, there have been some new developments, so let's talk about it. Also about the Anaconda Web UI project, basically, what is this all about? It's about creating a new modern Web UI instead of the current GTK-based UI for the Anaconda installer, that hopefully better fits in, let's say, to the modern world than the current user interface. And at the same time, hopefully, we would like to also improve the general usability of it. So basically, this is the F37 release party. So what is there for the F37 with the Web UI? I would say the main point for the F37 is the Web UI preview we want to release. I need to stress out that, like, first, that this is not a official deliverable, not an official image, but it's a preview image that is there for the community to provide feedback, so we can build the best Web UI possible, hopefully. Also, the image itself is really for testing purposes only, and please do not use it on a VM or a physical machine that has any important data on the disks, because basically the partitioning right now is set up to just use the full disk that you provided with. Over time, we will, of course, add more partitioning options, but this was the quickest way how to bootstrap the thing. So yeah, please be careful with this. Other than that, the installation of the preview will result in a functional system. But again, the focus is on the UI at the moment of the installer, not that much on the target system. It's also because basically the backend is still the same as with the current UI or with the Kickstart installation. So we don't see that much of a difference in the future with the Web UI in what is the content that gets installed, for example. So that is that. As for where we are going to release the Web UI preview image, the preliminary release date is basically, let's say, a week or so after the F37 goes out. This is because we want to basically have the F37 content being deployed after installation. So we need it to be stable and, let's say, done. Then we will release the first Fedora installer image with preview with the Web UI. And the thing is, this is not a one-off thing. Basically, the idea is that we will refresh this image, let's say, a week or two, like every week, basically, or something like that, or when we have some nice features for people to try. And yeah, there will definitely be a blog announcement about this with a link to the image. Most likely, we will also keep some couple older images as well for people to compare the development, or possibly if some regressions sneak in, to fall back to an older image before this is fixed in the next refresh. And this way, it should be possible for people to see the UI in action, have it easily accessible, and to provide us feedback to improve our work. And let me just check that this is actually. Can you still see it? Okay, thank you. So let's continue. So this is about the Fedora Web UI preview, what you can expect. We have these recent tweaks. This is kind of diff from the previous talk, where we just showed a couple initial bootstrapping screens, let's say. We did some improvements. This is how the new, the first screen, that we call it the welcome screen or welcome step, because this is the first screen that users will see. And it's pretty important that this is easily understandable, and hopefully also in a language that the user can actually understand. So, for example, we made it more clear that the language is not just used for the install itself, but also set for the target system. Also, we are using geolocation, like with the current GTK UI. And this might not be like 100% correct all the time. So, for example, we switched to the language list always being visible. So in the case of the geolocation guessing incorrectly and presenting you with a UI that is in a language you don't understand, it should be apparent to users that there is a manually scrollable list of languages that they can use as a fallback, for example. So another improved area is the disk selection. As I've mentioned, basically this is the partitioning we have right now. You select a disk, and the whole disk will be used for installation. In other words, it will be basically wiped and used for the installation. So please be careful and only use this in one of VMs or something like that, quite possibly. Of course, in the future we will have more partitioning options, but this was really the only way how to get this off the ground for now, and to make it possible for people to play with the web UI without first working for quite a long time to have complex partitioning from the get-go. So as for the improvements, already you can add disks at runtime. So like if you actually use a physical machine or some virtual hardware where you can attach additional devices at runtime, this is already supported. And this will most likely be even more important in the future, as we expect support, like with the current UI for network connected storage devices and stuff like that. That needs to be added at runtime. So it's pretty important to have a good interface for this. Already we have some support for multi-selection that was added as part of these improvements. Also, we improved the installation progress screen. We are still using the buttonfly progress stepper component for this. We had usually so far good feedback for it, but it was from user testing, it was not apparent, or let's say apparent enough what phase is currently ongoing and what's the progress. So we kind of added some microcopy to make it clear what the phase that is currently ongoing is doing. And also we put the progress messages under the phase that is currently running. So hopefully this way it will be clear how far we are roughly and what's currently happening. We are actually seeing some performance issues right now with Buttonfly and the locally running web UI in the GTK WebKit session we are using. So that will be quite interesting, like if what's the cause of this, because we actually saw some problems with spinners in our GTK interface. So it's quite interesting to see it again in a much more modern technology, let's say. So that will be something to follow for us. That's basically some of the visible changes in the that will be part of the initial preview release, and of course, yeah, all the subsequent releases with all the added features, improvements, and fixes. But there are also some initiatives, let's say, happening under the hood. That is, we are cooperating with the image builder project, and the idea is that right now some of the images we have been creating are still using Lorax, which we are basically running manually to build images we need to, let's say, test a pull request. But we are trying to, hopefully from the first image, or possibly from some of the subsequent ones, to use the image builder service to build these web UI images, hopefully in a fully automated manner. There is good progress, but we are still like helping the image builder team to tune some smaller stuff. But the idea is that for the beginning, we would like to have the image builder service create the Anaconda Web UI images, and later on, hopefully, also do basically dynamic image generation, because all the UX changes and comparing mockups with the implementation and stuff like that, it really seems that it's necessary to be able to create images per pull requests, so that contributors can see their changes easily, can see their changes live, that UX designers can see their mockups being implemented almost in real time when people post pull requests with the implementation. So we would like to also use Image Builder for this in the future as well. So basically, this was mostly about the upcoming preview release, but we are also already looking into what comes next for the Web UI project. So the next steps we expect right now, and this is work in progress. But what we expect to be working on in the short to mid-term future is screens that are used for user and root creation, or user creation and root password, root account configuration. So like we need to satisfy some of the requirements. We are already supporting with the current user interface. So basically, we need to be able to set up a system that has just a root account, for example, or just a user account that has admin privileges, or of course the case where you have both. And also the case of Fedora Workstation, for example, which is delegating the admin user creation after the installation itself. So this is something that needs to be addressed in the way the Web UI logic is set up. But we already have mockups for this. That should be one of the next major screens to be implemented. Of course, also, wanted to mention that it's not just about setting username, setting the user password, for example. For the root account, that's it's almost about just the password. But for the user, we also want to support more advanced stuff like group and user ID configuration, group membership, and stuff like that. Hopefully, making it more accessible than the way it's set up in the GTK interface right now. Also, after the user and root password screens are implemented, or at least an initial implementation is in place, most likely other candidates that we have in our pipeline is the time and date configuration. And the main focus is, of course, to show the current time, because otherwise users won't be able to see, like, if the there is the geolocation can set your time zone, for example. NTP can usually be also used to synchronize the time. So it's important to present the user with the current time and date so they can verify it is correct. Then we need to be able to manually also specify the time zone, because yet again, the geolocation might not always be correct, or the user might not have network connectivity. For example, like some corporate networks or VPNs will basically register as a different country very, very easily. So you might get incorrect time zone configuration as a result, and you need to be able to override this. So we need to be able to specify for users to specify time zones. And yet again, we are, as anyone who ever worked with time zone data, there is many options, and we are trying to find the best ones, how to get the necessary data, how to best present it to the user. It's interesting, let's say, but I'm sure we will find the best option. And of course, there is manual time entry that needs to be there. Yet again, isolated networks, no network connectivity, or even some hardware that is very, very new and, let's say, doesn't have drivers for its network hardware, maybe. So so the next steps, we will build the user and root screens, as well as the time and date configuration screen. That's the current idea. It will likely be this, and of course, fixes, improvements of the existing screens, and quite a lot of stuff is actually happening under the hood in our CI image building, and might not be directly visible, but it's making the other things possible. So basically, as I've mentioned, we have some mockups for the user and root screens. This is not even if it, I would say the fidelity is quite high. This is not a web UI for the Anaconda install. This is a high fidelity mockup. Yeah, and of course, yeah, we don't have lorem ipsum usually on our screens as well. So the idea is to have a, let's say, switcher screen where the user can select a card with the action they want to perform. For example, yeah, this is just, I just want the root account. I want both. I just want a user with administrator privileges, which is, as you can see, the default action, which also kind of mirrors, for example, the Fedora workstation case where during the normal workflow, you won't actually see the root configuration screen at all. You will create a user which automatically gets admin privileges. So in our mockup here, we have it as the default action. That could be most likely configurable. We will see over time, but it could be done. This is the root password configuration screen mockup. Again, it's pretty close to what you can implement using Patternfly, but it's a mockup. And overall, this has been very helpful because yeah, we just look up these components, and it's really useful where we are actually implementing these screens. So yeah, this is the root account screen, and yeah, this is the user configuration screen. This is, again, yeah, you need to configure a password for the user, but unlike the root, of course, there is a username. We will most likely keep what we are doing right now. So if you input your, let's say, human name, you will get up this suggested username, and there will be an option to set advanced options. This is not demonstrated, I think, on this mockup. This will be the user IDs, group IDs, group membership, and stuff like that. And I think, as you can see, basically, this is a case where the user selected just to create a user account, because, yeah, and this is just the root account. So the idea is basically you will visit the top level step, let's say, and based on your actions, subsequent steps will be added to the wizard navigator. It should be also possible to actually get back to these steps and sub-steps later on, or at least we want to try to do that, and I think we should be hopefully able to do that. So this is the user screen. I've already talked about that. And this is how we at the moment think the date and time configuration screen could look like. As I've mentioned about the components, there are some examples. For example, here, it really helps us to, when the mockup is done, we are of course providing feedback. There are a couple iterations mostly for each of these mockups. So then, when you start actually implementing it using React and Butterfly, it's really helpful that you can easily track down what the components on the mockup is actually coming from. So in this case, this screen is a bit of an experiment for us, because so far we have been using only Patternfly components and some cockpit customized components that are based on Patternfly in some rare cases. But in this case, we are thinking about using a third-party widget as well, quite possibly. So that's why as you can see, this is a Patternfly component. This is an external component. We will have to look into it in more detail. But for example, so far we haven't found such a widget in the Patternfly library. So this is something new for us, and we are looking into the technical aspects of integrating let's say, third-party widgets like this. Also, as I've mentioned, at the moment the current web UI is just doing what we call fully automated partitioning. You can select a disk, and the disk will be fully used for the installation. So effectively, Anaconda will wipe all data on it, create some default partitioning layout, and then unpack the tarball with the content on it. So for the preview image, it will unpack a minimal F37-based rootfs on the disk. And that was really the only way we could do in the time frame we had to have something for people to play with as soon as possible. But still, at the same time, and as we expected, this is a longer term project, let's say, we are looking into options how to best provide access to users for partitioning in the web UI. We at the moment, other than the fully automated partitioning and of course Kickstart-based Kickstart configured partitioning, we are looking into two main areas of partitioning. The first one is what we call guided or task-based partitioning. We expect it to be kind of similar to how you can select the given user root password creation task. But in this case, it would be some partitioning scenario based on the data we detect on the machine. So, for example, if we detect a Fedora installation, so one of the ideas, again, this is an idea and work in progress stuff. But for example, if you see an existing Fedora installation, we might be able to detect enough data about it to, for example, provide the user with a task to replace the Fedora installation, but keep the user directory and reuse it, for example. The current UI already actually can quite easily reuse home partitions, but it's a fully manual process where you need to correctly set the mount point. We are thinking that we might be able to get enough data from a non-corrupted Fedora install already on the machine in the future to provide an action of we found a Fedora install. Do you want to reinstall by keeping your user data in place? Something like that. There could be others, but we will see how these ideas actually translate into reality, because there could be some edge cases preventing that, but that's our aspiration. And yeah, the final and for some people definitely most vital is manual partitioning, where the user manually assembles the storage layout. At the moment, we actually have two such methods in the graphical interface that's based on GTK, the current interface, where people can actually build the storage layout in two different ways, basically from bottom up or from top down. This is something we are looking into, like what's the best method or some combination of these. Not really any like very concrete mockups like the ones we have for the date and time and users, but be assured we are working on it and it's not easy. So looking at the time, I think we are at a good time for questions. So let me somehow switch to the queue so I can actually see it. Let's see. Okay. I'm not sure this is the best way how to do it, but yeah. So let's see about. Please imagine a questions banner in the middle. Okay, let me switch. Okay, let's see. We have 4 minutes. Okay. That's actually a good idea. I'm wondering, like, is this captured somehow in the recording? Most likely, yeah, hopefully yes. So yeah, because this is something that we really need to note down. I would say it depends on very depends on the Patternfly, if they have some support for this, because I don't think this is something we would like to manually implement, let's say. Okay, so about the okay, dark mode. Yeah, about the disk encryption, definitely this is something that needs to be that we expect to be supported. Either with the guided partitioning, we would expect this to be done automatically, let's say. So yeah, if you select a task to create a fresh new installation, it could already include encryption or have some option for you to select. Yeah, I want to also encrypt my data, the same stuff if you are using an existing install. And of course, if you are manually creating the layout, I would expect there to be option, yeah, please create a Lux container or something like that. Yeah, about the quit and next button. I don't think I can, like, I have enough time to like look at the picture actually, but yeah, basically quickly back to the preview. There will be a blog post, most likely on Fedora magazine or some such Fedora channels, and there will be an option to where to provide feedback for the preview. So yeah, that will be a good question, for example, for this to this space to, so we can look into it, because I don't think I have enough time to talk about this. Link to the slides. Can I attach the slides somehow to this presentation? I'm not sure how to do it actually. So all the current installation options being available in the server is so be present once it reaches the GA. So yeah, that's a good question. What we are also doing, and what I haven't mentioned, is basically to trying to capture what's actually what people are using, what are the most important options, and we will definitely incrementally implement those. But I'm not sure we will be able to implement everything. Or basically, we are, for example, looking into options that have been there for years, but we might require hardware, for example, that is not in existence anymore. So stuff like that, or possibly some scenarios that are actually not very used or not used at all. So I would not say the feature set will be the same. I will hope there will be some new features that are enabled due to the new UI technology and all the important stuff people are using. Yeah, the custom installation, yeah, that's basically custom manual partitioning. That definitely will be there for talking about like some future GA feature set. Dark mode, okay, I've talked about that. And I think this is already the previous session. Okay, let me switch to the chat, and I think I'm out of time. Yeah, I'm sorry about the slides. Okay, so yeah, I'll put the slides somewhere and add the link during the next session. So that's all from me for this talk. Thanks.